Tuesday we saw a brand new OverTrigger as well as the first regalis piece card, and today we're getting again a brand new OverTrigger and the second regalis piece card of the Festival Collection set, and a whole plethora of new reveals, including some interesting new promos that are coming to JP.
Stand up! Vanguard!
Hey Cardfighters, welcome back to another Cardfight update, and today we're going to have a lot to discuss as we have about 60 new cards that we need to talk about, from new reveals for set 11 as well as Festival Collection, the final OverTrigger as well as regalis piece for Festival Collection, and a bunch of new promos that are pretty interesting to talk about that could definitely make some changes once we get these in the English format. So without any further ado, let's jump straight into these cards, and we start off with the new cards for set 11, which is this great one, which you've seen before in the previous look of these new cards from set 11, which is Knight of Destruction Aufstein, and it has the skill Auto and Rigor Circle. When this unit boosts a grade 3 or greater unit, if your opponent's Vanguard is grade 3 or greater, cost Soul +1, and this unit gets power +10 until the end of the battle. So 18k booster and a conditional 18k booster, anything special notable to talk about, so we can immediately move on to the second reveal, which brings us to the second Tokaya card, which in this case is this grade 2 Glorious Maiden Ilaria, which has the skill Auto Rigor Circle. When your other unit attacks, if it is the 4th battle or later of the turn, retire this unit, the attacking unit gets power +10k until the end of the battle. So again, a 10k power buff to your field. You trade off one card, which could be useful in certain instances, and if it's a restander you can get more value off it. But it being the 4th battle or later makes it a bit more restrictive, and I don't know if we have room to play it. But if you need a card, then this could be an option you could feel, but it's not something new we've seen before, as we have cards like this in Tokaya in the past. Now next up we've got a new grade 2 for Dark States, which is Debauch Frenzy Foshen. And Foshen has the skill, although when put into your soul from hand or rigor circle by your Vanguard's ability, you may soul charge 1. So it's extra soul charge essentially, which is nice to have for Dark States, but not anything new. But then it also has the skill, although when placed on a rigor circle from soul by your Vanguard's ability, cost soul +1, this unit gets power +5k until the end of the turn. So this could be a 15k attacker. Again, anything new we've seen before, so this could maybe be used in your deck, but it's not something revolutionary, so it depends on what you prefer or not. Now, next up, we've got a new Brandgate card, which is going to be support for Archite, which is this grade 2 Rabbit Researcher, and it has the skill, although when placed on a rigor circle, cost counter +1, look at the top 5 cards of your deck, choose up to 1 monster card from among them, reveal it, add it to your hand, shuffle your deck, and this unit gets power +15k until the end of turn. So a 15k attacker that can search for your monster cards, which sounds good, but the problem is this is not a monster itself, so you could almost immediately say this card is unplayable for Archite and you're not really going to use it. Maybe in some future build that is less reliant on having monsters all in your deck list, but right now I don't think this card is going to see any play. Now, as for the final reveal from set 11, we've got this grade 3 for Cater Sanctuary, which is Particle Light Dragon, and it has the skill Auto Rigor Circle. When this unit attacks a Vanguard, if you play a normal order this turn, cost counter +1, draw a card, and this unit gets power +5k until the end of the battle. So it's a conditional draw and 18k attacker. It's not anything special. It could be useful if you need something like this, but I think there's like way better cards to be played, and I believe this is just a common or rare, so it makes sense. So this is probably just a budget option. Now moving on, we get into the Lyrical Monasterio reveals from Festival Collection, and these are like the double rares, which are going to support the other ride lines that aren't the original 5 that have like the new dress up mechanic, and we see cards that are basically dual support that support 2 ride lines in one card, which we start off with this grade 1, which is Power Do My Best Aina, and she has a skill, although when a unit is placed on the rigor circle by a card's ability, if you have a grade 3 or greater Vanguard with Kyoka or Lutetia in its card name, soul charge 1, and this unit gets power +5k until the end of turn. So I know that Lutetia needs certain cards in the soul. I believe that's the curse ride line, so maybe the soldiers can come up there. I'm not too familiar with Kyoka if she needs a soul, but essentially it's a 13k booster that generates a soul on a conditional effect. It's not anything special or revolutionary, but hey, maybe it's useful for the deck with the additional soul charge capability on the card, but it's not something that's gonna change the deck in any capacity anytime soon. Now moving on to another great one, we have Egg Relay Race Full of Smiles, Juliana. And Juliana has the skills Friend, continues a regalis circle. If you have another unit in the same column as this unit, that unit and this unit becomes friends. And she has a skill on a regalis circle. When this unit boosts, if you have a grade 3 or greater Vanguard with Fortia or Mediel in its card name, choose one of your other friends and it gets power plus 5k until the end of turn. So essentially she is a 13k booster, you could say. Now if those units in the front row could restand, then it could be more power, but it's not the craziest amount of value. But hey, it's a bit more power to the field for no cost. Now moving up to grade 2s, we've got Emotions Keep Rising Halfa, and Halfa has the effect Powerful continues during your turn. If your soul has no cards, this unit gets power plus 10k. So she can become a 19k attacker, because keep in mind, she's a 9k base. So that is decent, but not good for magic numbers. But she also has the effect on a regalis circle. When this unit is chosen by the ability of your Vanguard with Hermania or Hazaret in its card name, cause counter plus 1 and draw a card. So it has a conditional draw effect, but it's on counter plus 1 draw a card that's conditional, which isn't the greatest. And her being a 90k attacker could be nice, but overall it's not anything special. But if it's one of the better beaters that those decks have to offer, that's the nice addition to have for the deck. But overall, nothing anything special. Now as for the final Lyrical Monasterio card that's got revealed this week for Festival Collection, we have a brand new grade 3, which is Go-Go Sweet Kule. And Kule has the effect, although when it is placed on a regalis circle by the ability of your Vanguards with Lilfa or Michu in its card name, cost Soul Blast 2, counter charge 1, and this unit gets power plus 5k until the end of turn. Honestly, this doesn't sound that terrible, because getting counter charge could be decent for 2 soul, and it becomes an 18k attacker. That's great, honestly. I'm not too familiar with Lilfa and Michu, how they are able to call this with their ability, but having access to a card like this could be useful in the long term, because counter charge could never be a miss, although 2 soul, depending on what type of variant you're playing, that could be heavy or not. Now, with the Lyrical Monasterio stuff out of the way, let's get into some promos, and we have 3 new promos. There are going to be upgrades or dedicated support for the encounter ride lines from set 8. And we begin with Lucriere, which is this new grade 2 for Dark Stage, which is Steamed Performer Togue. And Togue has the effect, although when it is put into your soul by your card's ability, if your Vanguard has only Pale Moon as its clan, cause bind this card, search your deck or drop zone for up to 1 grade 3 card, put it into your soul. If you search your deck, shuffle your deck. So essentially what this does, it allows you to search for your order card, which enables you to multi-attack, which is great because Lucier really relies on that card to put up an offensive every single turn. And they do have options to get it from the drop into the soul with a Felcake Performer, but it does require you to jump through some hoops so you don't have other grade 3s in your soul. So if you're Persona Ride or you have the grade 3 Counter Charger, things could get a bit awkward. And with this grade 2, that's not really the case, because you can easily just get it back into the drop zone from drop zone into soul, or just filter your deck as well, which is great because filtering is always going to be good. And as an upside, it can also search for the counter charger. If you're missing the counter charger and you're going to need the counter charger, this is a great way to get to that card as well. So there's options with this card, which is great. So I can definitely see this card being run in Lucriere to just increase the consistency of the overall ceiling of the deck with the multi-attack option of the order card. Now in terms of Maelstrom support, we've got this grade 2, which is Stormy Brave Shooter, and this promo has the effect, continues a regalis circle. For each card with Blue Storm Armada in the order zone, this unit gets power plus 5k, so this scales the more orders you play, which is great because the deck really needs to play those orders. And it also has the effect, auto backward rearguard circle. At the end of the battle in which your other rearguard in the same column as the unit attacked, if you have Vanguard Maelstrom in its card name, cost counter plus 1, choose one of your other rearguards and swap the position of this unit and that unit. So it's a column swapper, so this is in the back row and then it moves itself to the front row, so you get one extra additional attack for a counter blast. And it being potentially a decent beefy number can be great in combination with your Blue Storm Armadas. I don't really think this is going to change anything all too much for Maelstrom, because it doesn't necessarily fix the issues of the deck in my opinion, because the deck does struggle with some numbers and it is relatively piece reliant. Yes, it's an additional piece, so you have more options to draw, but my issue is with the Blue Storm Armada cards themselves, which are relatively slow. Now finally we've got the new promo for Minerva, which honestly in my opinion is probably the strongest of these three, which is Knight of Divine Order Saces. And Saces literally just read as get to your Choma Mouse efficiently, effectively, more faster. Because it has the skills. Although, when placed in the rearguard circle, if your Vanguard has only Genesis as its clan, look at the top 3 cards of your deck, choose up to 1 card from among them, put them into your soul, and put the remaining cards on the bottom of your deck in any order. So, more deck filtering, but more importantly, more easier access to getting the grade 1 and the grade 2 into your soul for multi-attack capabilities. But then it also has the effect, on a rearguard circle, at the end of battle this unit attacked, if you have a Vanguard with Minerva in its card name, cost Soul Blast 1, retire this unit, choose up to 1 card from your hand or drop zone, put it into your soul. If you put a card from your hand, draw 1. So this is a perfect setup for Chomamale as well, because not only does it retire itself, so it opens up the board, so you don't have to recall on top of units, it also allows you to put a copy of it from your drop zone into the soul. And then you can soul less it, call it out, and then just basically get all the targets to hit for Chomamale to get the multi-attack as efficiently as possible, which is great. And even if copies start to clutter in your hand, this is also another way to get them into your soul and not lose out on card advantage because you can draw into more cards. So overall, this is a really good card, and I can immediately see this card being played at 4 copies the moment it comes out. Because in my opinion, this feels like a better, I believe it's called a Sterilized Angel or something Angel, the grade 2. This feels like a better version of that Angel because it also filters from the top deck. Regardless, it soul charges, it gets it from the drop, potentially from hand into the soul. So everything basically what you want to have. This is a great promo for Minerva, and yeah, it makes Chomamale even more consistent. Now finally we have 2 more Tokaya promos which do their own generic thing, which in this case is a brand new grade 1 normal order, which is Misty Arc Habitat. And Habitat has the skill, look at the top 7 cards of your deck, choose up to 1 unit card with a grade equal to or lower than your Vanguard, call to the rearguard circle and shuffle your deck. So essentially a check top 7, search for anything and call to the field, which is great for consistency if you rely on specific pieces. But then this card gets even better because it also has the effect, continues from deck. When you would choose or search for a unit card from your deck, this card may be chosen instead. And it also continues when you would call this card to the rearguard circle from your deck, instead of putting it in your drop zone, add it to your hand. So basically, you can search this searcher and add it to your hand. So it's anything searching for a specific card, but let's say for example you don't see it, but you do see this, you can add it to your hand and then activate this to check the top 7 again, and you can keep filtering. Now, the funny thing is, this card can technically add itself, but you cannot use it immediately in the same turn because you can only use 1 order, of course. But this is a great way to just keep filtering your deck for specific pieces, and a searcher that's searchable with any other searcher that can search for a specific card, which then this card can search for any other card, and that sounds pretty good. So yeah, Tokaya, keep winning on this one, and I'm curious when we're getting this card in English format, because this sounds honestly really good. Now finally, for the last Tokaya promo card we have is a brand new random grade 3 boss unit promo that we see with like the bat, the one for Dark States, and this is basically a new one for Tokaya, which is this grade 3 Reminiscing Flower Maiden Claudine. And Claudine has 3 effects, from which are act from Vanguard Circle, once a turn, cost, retire 3 rearguards. Until the end of the turn, this unit gets continuous in Vanguard Circle. All of your plant tokens get power plus 5k. And then she also gets an additional drive. So she's a triple drive Vanguard that pumps your plant tokens essentially. But then she also has a skill, act on Vanguard Circle, once a turn, cost, bind 1 order from your drop zone, call up to 2 plant tokens to the rearguard circle, and she has a skill on a Vanguard Circle, when this unit attacks, cost Soul Blast 1, choose 1 of your plant tokens, stand it, and that unit gets power plus 5k until the end of turn for every 2 different order cards in total in your drop and bind zone. So this is basically a plant token focused strategy that also relies on orders, because you want to create more tokens because your tokens are getting buffed, but then you also want to play a significant amount of orders in order to buff those tokens even further and having multi-attack with those tokens. It's a really interesting strategy being seen in the standard right now, because we have seen like similar strategies being used in V Premium and Premium with like Katrina and the Flower Maidens and whatnot, and this is like the D version, the spin of it, with also order cards being incorporated with it. And being in Tokaya with having a whole wide of a range of order cards which are kind of crazy, and we just saw a brand new Tokaya order which is really good. This can potentially be a really fun budget build out of nowhere once this promo get released, like we see with the other promo boss units. So I'm very curious of how this deck is going to pan out and how we're going to get this card in the future, as it looks honestly kind of fun to play as well with all the plant token enablers. Now, with all those cards out of the way, let's actually talk about the big bombshells of the reveals, which are of course the brand new OverTrigger and the brand new regalis piece cards. Now, spoiler alert, we won't have to go into too much detail on both these cards, as they're kind of underwhelming. Because first off, we have the brand new OverTrigger, which is Spiritual King of Water in Dos Pharaoh. And its additional fact is, choose a card in your drop zone and add it to your hand. And choose one of your units and it gets critical +1 until the end of turn. So basically, this is a glorified critical trigger. Because it's basically a critical trigger that gets way more power, and then you can add a card from your drop zone to your hand. So it's a critical trigger that goes +1. Great. Like, honestly, I think this is fine in generic sense, but if you compare this to all the other OverTriggers, this feels really, really underwhelming. If you hit this in the early game, if you did not discard good cards with your right deck, then you don't even get too much value off it. And again, you probably don't want to discard good cards because they're good cards. So yeah, depending on when you hit this card, like very late game, it feels bad because it essentially does a critical trigger. Early game it feels bad because you don't really have good targets to hit anyways, and it somewhere comes down into the middle game where you still have a couple of turns to go, but you have good cards to hit because you maybe lost some combo pieces, and this can get a way to recoup those losses. So it's a bit of a weird spot because usually OverTriggers tend to be very good early on or very good late game, but this one is like somewhere in the middle of that, which is kind of weird spot to be in, if I'm gonna be honest. Now, as for the final card, we have the second regalis piece card of the festival collection, which is this great free regalis piece card, Evergreen Transfer. And keep in mind, this is a blitz order, so it's not a normal order, it's a blitz order, and it's a regalis piece card. So its effect is cost +1 to play, choose one of your units, and it gets power +25k until the end of battle, which is decent for one soul less. 25k shield is nothing to scoff at. Choose one of your Vanguards, it gets continuous on Vanguard Circle. All of your opponent's units with 100 million power or greater get critical -1 until the end of turn. So essentially this is to negate and counter OverTriggers. As yes, you get 100 million power on a unit, but it doesn't hit now. Or it does hit, but it hits for 0 damage. Or it does get extra crit, like with the OverTrigger we just talked about, but now it's only 1 damage. It's fine, but at the same time also really feel bad. For multiple reasons. It getting 25k is nice for a Soul Blast, but it being a Blitz order does mean it competes for the slot for Elementaria Sanctitude, your perfect card that everybody's basically playing, because you cannot use both in the same turn. So if that's the only PG you have, that means you cannot use this effect. And I think this card mainly interacts well by having also perfect cards the same turn, because the timing of this card is really awkward, because essentially what they were trying to do is you want to use this on a strong attack, potentially the Vanguard swing, they hit the OT, and you negate essentially the OT power, because if they get the 100 million power to the Vanguard, it still get lose 1 crit, so yes, it breaks through, but it doesn't do damage. The issue is, this is not how most OT works. A lot of the OTs do give extra criticals, like the Dark States one, or the Brandgate one, or the Tokaya one, or this new Elemental one. They give extra criticals, thus still be able to break through the shield and then still do you 1 damage. And then the continuous effect doesn't really do anything afterwards, because the rest of the units don't have the power gain, so it's basically just to heal 1. It's just heal 1 at that stage. But you still lost the card, which feels kind of bad. But then at the same time, let's say for example you do it from a different perspective and you're not using it on the Vanguard swing, you just PG the Vanguard because you're scared of the OT. They hit the OT, now you have this card, but what is your opponent going to do? They're probably going to swing with the unit with the OT. If it's like the Restander or it has double crit or something, they can swing with it. And then this card, you're wasting the 25k shield on this unit. So it's literally Soul Blast 1, discard 1 to negate 1 damage if it comes with double crit or something, or maybe block 1 damage, but do it as a pseudo perfect card, is it only 1 damage, which is fine and all, but you don't get the max value of this card. And that's the issue with this card being the way it is, that it's very awkward to use in these situations, because you either preemptively have to use it on the Vanguard, but then they have the chance of breaking through the shield regardless, so you're wasting it. Or they then, okay, we put the power somewhere else on a unit that doesn't matter or something, and you still need to probably waste shield regardless if it's like the brand OT that still swings with 4 crit. Okay, great that you lose 1 crit, but it's still 3 crits coming my way, for example. Like, it doesn't fix the issue at hand here. I don't know if this is actually gonna be played, because this is a Regalis piece card that competes with 2 cards. It competes with Elementaria Sanctitude for the Blitz Sword of Return, but it also is going to compete with every other Regalis piece card being played. And yes, the Persona Ride one isn't the greatest one out there, but the new one that got revealed, there are definitely decks out there that really want to play that card, as it generates a lot of value. And I don't think this outcompetes that. And besides everything so far, that's talking about having this card when your opponent hits the OT. Probably in like 80 or 90% of the cases, you will not have this card when they hit the OT. Because this is a one-off, and there's a one-off. Which is really awkward. This is not the way how to fix OTs. Let me be clear, this does not help the situation, because either they're hitting it before you see this card, so great, this is now effectively just 25k shield, or you see this card and you're just wasting this card in your hand because of the prospect, oh, they can hit the OT next turn, oh, they can hit the OT this turn, I'm not gonna use it, wait till they hit the OT, and you're just wasting 25k shield that could save you like an important damage point a couple turns earlier ago that could have saved you the game. So, yeah, I'm not a fan of this card. I like the idea of them trying to combat OverTriggers, but this is not the way to do it. There are definitely other way more impactful ways to deal with OverTriggers in a game design philosophy, and I'll probably go over those in a future video, as yeah, this is not ideal. Those were quite a lot of cards, because not only do we have a lot of cards that got revealed today, the last week or so they've been revealing 2 cards each day for the day of the week reveals, because they've been revealing set 11 as well as Festival Collection revealed. So they've been churning cards out left, right, and center, because sets are on the horizon and they need to reveal them as soon as possible, because things are gonna get even more crazy, because History Collection is also on the horizon, and there are like 300 plus cards in that set. So yeah, a lot to go over in a relatively short time span. But that said, I'm very curious what you guys think of these reveals. What are your opinions of these new cards for Lyrical, for set 11, the new promos that we got for the counter ride lines, as well as the new Regalis piece card OverTrigger? Do you think they're really good, or do you think they're not that good? Do you think I overlooked them or didn't give them enough credit? Let me know all your thoughts in the comments section down below. As always, this video has been brought to you by our lovely patrons over at patreon.com/RingInsider. You guys are amazing. If you do want to support the channel or think there's something on the channel, you can simply go to patreon.com/RingInsider and become a patron today. But with that said, I've been Mr. Timely, and I'll see you guys in the next one!